Hello and welcome to this Life Science webcast from BioIT World. I'm Kevin Davis, Editor-in-Chief of BioIT World, flagship journal of the Cambridge Health Tech Media Group. We're here in Boston at the Bridging Pharma and IT conference going on today and tomorrow, and I'm delighted to be joined by one of the keynote speakers at the event, Dr. Jerald Schindler, with Merck. 6 months on the job, so congratulations on the still relatively recent appointment. Jerald is the Vice President of Latestage Clinical Development Statistics. I may not have got that quite right, but okay, very good. And you've been, you had many years at Wyeth before that, as well as some experience on the vendor side. So Jerald is one of the industry's experts in the use of deployment of biostatistics in clinical trials, and we'll get into the whole issue of adaptive trials in just a few moments. Jerald, in the 5 or 6 months that you've been at Merck, perhaps you could just outline for us what your current or future responsibilities are likely to be.
Yeah, well, my responsibilities are to lead the statistical aspects of the design and management and reporting and analysis of phase 2 through 4 and 5 trials. So the dose-ranging trials all the way through confirmatory trials to get the drug on the market and then post-marketing. And what our group does is design the trials and analyze them and then go to the FDA or the regulatory bodies in Europe or Japan and present the data along with our clinical medical colleagues.
So no trials at Merck are going ahead without your input and advice and guidance on the design?
From the later phase 2 on.
How many trials are going on roughly at this stage?
I don't know the exact number, but hundreds.
Yeah, okay.
Hundreds of trials.
All around the world?
Around the world, global trials.
Yeah. 6 months may not be quite enough time to evaluate this, but I mean, if I had to ask you, what's working in the clinical trials field, and where do you see are still the real headaches, the real challenges? So what would be the big picture answer?
Well, in general, challenges that people have faced for a long time, they're still facing, and that is enrollment is sometimes slower, often slower than you would like. And so once a trial is open to enroll new patients, the availability of patients and for patients to volunteer and enroll into the trial is always an issue. So if there's ways to accelerate enrollment, that's a good thing. Getting the data in is still a challenge. So EDC has helped a lot, but still getting the data, building a database is still a challenge. And then this newer idea of starting to use the data earlier, if it's coming in earlier, and that's what the adaptive trials bring, being able to use the data earlier to make decisions and driving that earlier into the process is something that people are starting to do now.
You mentioned EDC. This is a subject that you're very familiar with. Is this widely deployed now at Merck? Is it an ubiquitous part of clinical trials?
We're moving towards 100% EDC. We're not quite there yet, but we're moving in that direction. And so our goal is that all new trials that are just beginning now will be in EDC.
Do you use one platform or
yeah, we've standardized. What we've tried to do is standardize on one platform and use that exclusively.
Okay. Can you say who that platform is?
It's Phase Forward.
Okay. You also just mentioned the use of adaptive trials. Perhaps for those people who've heard about the term but are still a little fuzzy as to what it exactly means, what would the definition be?
Well, to me, there's a huge opportunity to take advantage of data that's available after the trial starts to modify the design of the trial. And usually it's information that you didn't have before you designed the trial. So it's the data that either comes from that current trial or from another trial or from outside. And if you have new information, you want to incorporate that into maybe a modification or design change to the trial. And there are many different opportunities. There's some early stage opportunities where you can learn more about dosing and make some dynamic changes to the trial to understand dosing a little bit better, or on the pivotal side, make some determination about the best dose or the optimum dose in a pivotal trial.
So when a phase 2 trial comes to you and your group, are you sort of pushing adaptive trials, or are there some trials where you say this is a great idea, but others where it may not be so useful?
We've become advocates of looking at more than one dose or more than 2 doses in a phase 2 trial, so maybe possibly looking at 5 or 6 or 7 doses in a phase 2 trial, and eliminating doses that look less interesting and focusing on the doses that look more interesting. And at the end of the day, the end of the trial, have more information about the dose response curve and look at the spread of doses rather than sort of an old-fashioned phase 2 trial that might only look at 2 doses or 3 doses and placebo. We're trying to look at more doses and do it in a meaningful way so that we collect sort of differential amount of information at the doses we're most interested in so that we can characterize the dose-response curve.
Was Merck embarking on adaptive trials before you arrived, or has that been one of your big initiatives in the last 6 months?
There's been interest at Merck even before I arrived, and I've tried to build up the interest a little bit stronger. So I've been trying to focus more attention on adaptive trials, but this was something that's been going on for a while already.
So it's still a work in progress, presumably. How far along are sort of the most late-stage trials, and can you, from that experience, can you say whether it's been a success or not?
Yeah, so far it's been pretty successful. Where the focus right now has been on the early part of late stage, which is the phase 2, phase 2B, the dose response trials for the most part. And for the pivotal trials, we focused a fair amount on futility analysis, dropping doses that don't work or dropping treatments that don't work, which is a more conventional approach. And also sample size adjustment in the pivotal trials, which is also an approach that's been around for a while. And that's the area we're focusing on for the pivotal trials. But in the early stage, there's more opportunity to experiment, to try new things, to try more doses or patient populations. And the scrutiny from the regulators is a lot less because the need to maintain the blind as carefully as you would in the pivotal side is not there in the phase 2 world. So that you want to make sure you have enough of a blind, but not so much as you would need in a pivotal trial.
So what's in it for Merck? Is it speeding time to market? Is it saving money? Is it saving patients? You don't have to enroll so many patients. Is it avoiding the stigma of late-stage withdrawals?
Potentially all of the above, all of those things. The idea would be that we get better information earlier and are able to act on that information. And if acting on that information means we accelerate the development of a drug, then that's a good thing because it would help to get that drug approved faster. If it means that we get information that demonstrates that the drug doesn't work or isn't working adequately, then we might abandon development of that drug. And we might, in some cases, set a very high hurdle to go to the next stage. And because we're collecting the data and looking at it, we can fine-tune how high this hurdle is. And only the best of the best are the ones that make it to the next stage, rather than let everything make it to the next stage and have a lot of losers always go to the next stage. We'll only have the best of the best make it to the next stage, and we'll have a better opportunity to have a higher proportion of the products that make it into phase 3 to have them become successful.
Some other big pharma companies are talking about new models of clinical research. Learn and confirm is one moniker that has been put on this. Do you see the phase 1, 2, 3, sort of the linear pipeline, do you see that changing dramatically, or is it a more subtle shift?
It will change dramatically because what happens is you now get to look at the data in phase 2 that you might not have seen before. And so in some cases, phase 2 becomes a learning stage and phase 3 becomes a confirming stage. Okay. So this activity will happen whether you call it learn and confirm or the terminology that I've started to use is the pivotal side and the non-pivotal side, the other, or the 1 minus pivotal. So you have the 2 stages. Because what happens in confirm or in the pivotal side, you still have many, many opportunities to do adaptive trials. So it's not just one dose and placebo, which you might think of when you hear the term confirm, but you still can do an adaptive phase 3 trial on the pivotal side. And so the terminology that I like better is really an adaptive phase 3 trial on the pivotal side.
So, I mean, this sounds like an exciting area, and one senses that many, or if not all, big pharma companies are sort of embracing it to a greater or lesser extent. Where would you say Merck ranks on that list?
I think Merck is accelerating the adoption of these adaptive trials, so that Merck has been, seeing what's going on in the industry, and many, many trials at Merck are now done this way. So I would say that Merck is closing in on the leaders and soon to become one of the leaders in this area. And we'll see. Many trials are underway now, and it'll take a while for us to report on the trials and for other companies to report on what they're doing in 2007. So we'll see what happened this year. But I think pretty sure that we're up there among the leaders of companies that are really trying to push the envelope and do some of these innovative adaptive trials.
My last question, Jerald, we already sense and have reports that the reorganization that Merck under Peter Kim's scientific leadership is beginning to pay dividends in terms of stocking up the pipeline. Is Peter directly involved in this adaptive trial phenomenon or push at Merck?
Yeah, Peter Kim is an advocate of the use of these trials, and it's important to have a careful, thoughtful use of the trials rather than to just go ahead and do it everywhere.
Yeah.
And so what we're trying to do is identify the best opportunities in 2007 and 2008, and he supports us and is funding these activities and is following the success of these programs.
As I'm sure we will be too. Jerald, I'll let you go prepare for your keynote in a few minutes. Jerald Schindler has been our guest, Vice President with Merck. I'm Kevin Davis, Editor-in-Chief of BioIT World. We thank you for watching.